You see, I really do want to live my life a certain way, where I raise my kids with my wife's multiple. I really do want to live my life that way. I really do want to raise my kids sexually as well. Help them understand what sex is, what to look out for others, but also, uh, have sex with them in a safe way, but also kind of train them and teach them that that's normal and so on and so on. When it comes down to, like, hey, so we're gonna watch porn together. And it's like, oh my god, that's terrible. But it's like, the context for me turns into, whoa, 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 whoa. Look, I know you're gonna get into this. You need to understand what this is. That, and it's like, I know you're gonna get horny. I know that you're probably curious. I know you're probably gonna want to try. And this is a safe method of like just getting that done in a way that doesn't, harm you as much as you probably could either harm yourself with either yourself and various shit, or someone else that is not safe and definitely not trustworthy. So that's how I view that in a lot of ways. And it's like, yeah, no, there is a also bias there where I want to do that because it's like I find that sexually, exciting. It's not really a fantasy. I really want to live my life that way. I really want to do that. I want to raise them doing that. I want them to love me and all that stuff. But it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, no, you want to go, marry someone else, love someone else, do whatever with them, go for it. I don't want to hold you back. You know what I mean? Like, I have multiple wives or whatever else. You know what I mean? And like, that'd just be a really fun kind of family bonding experience. And it's like taboo, sexy, horny. Oh my god, the fantasy. Ooh. But then there's also like, there's real reasons for it. It's not just because of that. you know? And it's like, I like that. And it's actually like genuinely just a thing that's just there. And this is the part that I try and make. It's like when you, or not the part, but a point that I'm trying to make. It's like, hey, you get famous enough, you become a person that's, kind of forced out of society, but is a part of society and kind of runs the thing, to a degree, quotation marks, run the thing. It's like you kind of set fads or shit going, like you run some of the cultural zeitgeist, stuff like that. It's like, you realize and recognize pretty quickly how just gobsmackingly incredible people are at being hypocritical. Like, I've done it, but then I didn't really realize that other people were not being honest. And then, like, they'll immediately do it. Like, the moment you're outside of that kind of area, it's like, oh, yeah, no, well, wait a second, is it really, like, that bad? I know that, like, a lot of people really don't probably care. Or they say they do, and it's for clout, or it's for various reasons, but then there's, like, genuinely those reasons aren't what they thought to be as real and as actually scientifically correct, and even philosophically or ethically or morally. I mean, I've talked about it where, let's put it for an instance out there when it comes down to philosophical, ethical, moral quandaries, where it comes down to a replicator in Orville. I saw this on Reddit, and it was like, well, you wouldn't do that because you need a utopian society. And it's like, well, actually, the point is that the replicator makes the utopian society. It forces the hand of a large amount of very rich people to essentially no longer be able to use capitalistic slave-like designs to run their society. Like, you are forced to basically change that. It might take some time, there might be some craziness to it, but it happens, no matter what. And so it's like, actually, they're very weird, but it's really more of it's not they're weird and they're bad and they're wrong. It's more of hey, so I'm about to, like, basically take on this child that, like, in every way, I'm not sure if I'm really ready to take on. Because, you know, like, you kind of have a little bit of a responsibility to just, and you can't just like drop something like that and be like, well, so you'll figure out the instructions and shit. You know what I mean? It's just like your kid. It's like, well, I just had a kid. I kind of have a bit of a responsibility to teach them some shit about what's going on here, and about, you know, what's going on with society and the world around us and reality as we know it, and da 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 da. And so it's like, oh, this is a literal, you know, replicator that's going to massively alter the entirety of how it is you live your society. You know, and it's like, right, well, this is you as a child, where it's like, no, 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 I know that you know about these things that are right there on you. And this is going to change your life in reality. You know what I mean? When you feel like that, it's going to make you head towards that all the time. Okay? That pleasure, that response, that shit is going to make you, and in fact, it's going to run pretty much everything around you. Like, seriously, everything is pretty much run through some level and degree of sexual, you know, shit. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's our evolution, it's our history, it's our biology, it's the reason why we exist and everything else. And they'll tell you it's wrong to do this or think this way, blah 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 is all they ever really hear from that, because a single one of them doesn't ultimately understand that. And truthfully, all of them have varying degrees of I care about it too, I acknowledge it too, I even know about it. And so it's one of those things for me where it's like, yeah, no, for me, because I'm polyfidelity and I want a harem and I want slave, you know, kind of girl, you know, type of kink things, and they like that kind of stuff where it's like I'm brainwashing, grooming, oh yeah, and like you're the one that determines her value or for us and her and everything else, and it's like I love that shit. That is my shit. That is my jam. I like that to a point where it's like, actually, I like that when it comes down to that kink. It comes down to that, you know, kid and so on, to a point, and I'd love to raise them to be that way, okay? But at the same time, it's like, right, but I'm also going to raise them to have their own self-validation, their own, you know, shit, and they're going to have their own experiences. I'm not going to always be around them, you know, to tell them everything that they're going to do, and they're going to be self-sufficient, and I actually like that, again, as a nice kink play in its own way, because it's like, oh, right, they can help me in their own self-sufficient way, and think and do things as well to help me out. You know, it's one of those things when it comes down to the kink aspect, sure. But then it's like, it's not always about kink, it's not always about play, it's not always about that kind of stuff. Okay? And so I like that, but it's like, right. And the ultra pleasing, you know, attitude that a lot of them have, and people, like, you know, especially training them to be like, well, it's for pleasing you, it'll be anything. But for them, it's like, I literally could give less of a shit if they care, don't care, or have any kind of pain or pleasure or anything. And it's like, I love that kind of person, but it's that thing, you know what I mean? It's like, look, there's a point where that's good, and then there's a point where it's no longer as good. So I'm making espresso while I'm doing this. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 43. Not the right brain size. Did not appear to be the case. So I like to pull it all in one. I want to get everything. I could have pulled it at the 30. And that would have probably been fine. I keep forgetting that it's like, look, I can just pull the shot and stop pouring. after a certain point. But I tend to just try and go for broke and get all of it. So that's how I like it. That's pretty good though. For what it is, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Anyways, let's pour some water in here. Yeah, I tend to water down my espresso. It's like a really, really good pour over. It's got texture and body and all that. Anyways, but I like that kind of thing. Like, I like women that are like that. And they're genuinely like that. That being said, I'm also one of those people that's like, well, I'm going to fight for your right to say that you can have an abortion because you want to make me happy, you know what I mean, by having the abortion because I told you to. If that's the case, it's like, fine, whatever. That's what gets you to fucking vote. You know what I mean? Like, I'm actually genuinely on the side of Democrats, socialists, and anarchists, and so on and so forth, like that. I genuinely am. I want the same thing: universal health care, universal, basic income, or removing income and trying to go with, automating the vast majority of our stuff, and then automating the rotation of our various jobs that we need to do, and assigning a time value instead of a, credit or cash or money value system to it, which time is extremely, significant to work on anything. So, like, that's a thing. But, that being said, it's also one of those things where it's like, everything I'm saying right now, it's like, I've already said probably earlier, is like, I would love that, but I love that kink, and I love all this stuff, you know what I mean? I love them. I don't think people really understand. It's like, there is love there. It's not only sex. It's not just horny, sex. And there are reasons for it that are to raise, in my mind, the child appropriately, so that way that they can handle the world around them. It's like, look, I love this, but it's like, they're going to know that it's like, it's a kink. They're not going to believe that that's the only thing that exists. And this is, you know what I mean? That's not because I'm not going to try and groom them. You know what I mean? Like, that's grooming. When you talk about grooming is like, this is the only thing, and that's the only way it works. And it's like, it's kinky sex talk when we talk like that to a point. You know what I mean? Like, it could be your true belief. That's fine. Okay, that's great. I like that. I like when you're, horny like that kind of shit. But it's like, also, my full belief system is this. Entirely different thing. Where it's like, look, no, you need to learn how to handle yourself emotionally, mentally, and physically, and know about these things that are there, and be prepared. But also, it's like, right, I'm not the only guy, and if you so choose to want others, or experiment, it's like, well, if you want me to help, I can help. If you don't need me to. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of thing. Or if you want to try and get your friends for me, it's like, I'll be receptive to that. It's one of those things where it's like, it's there, but it's a lot of things. You know what I mean? It's not only just that. It's a lot more than just that. There's sexy, times, sure, and I love beautiful women and kids and teens and all that too, but I don't even really look half the time. I know that sounds weird coming from a person like that is probably typecast or profiled or whatever you want to call it, that you think of him like this kind of fucking crazy evil dude, but it's like, nah, we all look, but it's like, I don't really think about it that much. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes I'm horny, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes, like, I want this or I want that. Sometimes, like, in terms of age or in terms of this type of body or this type of kink play or whatever it is, like, we all get that way. to varying degrees. But like, it's one of those things where for me, it's like, oh yeah, no, there's nothing to be terrified about when it comes down to that. It's okay to be that way. It's okay to think that way. It's okay to feel that. It's okay to have those thoughts and want to do it too if you're a woman or a man or whatever else. It's all about how you do it, but you also have to remember, it's like, look, there's nothing wrong with essentially you just having another kid or allowing for them to go off to someone else, that kind of thing. Not, if they are really into to a point, like it's your responsibility here. This is the big part that you have to remember, that everybody that can understand where the logic and reasoning and so on is coming from, to a certain degree. It's, hey, you can just pressure someone. They're your kid. You have a lot of, ability to just do that. Like, your parents did it to you, my parents done it to me, where it's like they just say no and they're just going to do that thing. And like, you can even kind of grow them up to be into that kink if you really want them to be. Like you can, if they're already so inclined to be a little bit more on the submissive side or whatever else, you can really kind of get that. And it's like, is that bad? See, that's the thing. It's like, is it bad? Like, it's like, well, you need to brush your teeth. Well, it's like, well, I want you like this. I'm growing you to be like that. That's like coaching, parenting, teaching, any of that. You know what I mean? There's not much of a difference there. And so it's like there's a moral, ethical quandary and philosophical debate there to happen. But it's like, this is where it is. It's like you have a responsibility to make sure they are not traumatized and harmed unduly. Like, you can traumatize your child to try and get them to fucking brush their teeth consistently, and I've talked about it. Like, we all kind of together sort of just went like, yeah, no, you need to fucking brush your teeth. You need to brush your teeth. You need to put some fucking deodorant on. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of shit. You need to wipe your ass after you shit, dude. Girl, goddamn. Like, come on. Like, you have to do that. Like, you have to do that. Like, we agree as a society that we have to do that. But then there's like, well, he has needs. And it's like, no, what? That's not acceptable. And it's like, well, yeah, to a point, though. We understand that that's a thing. And it's like, well, there's no other place and it's easy to just do this. And so it's like, my idea usually turns into, there is another place now, and no, don't do that. And like, you do need to be able to experience what this is, and we're going to make sure it's safe and everything else. And, we'll try and play around and, try and get you heading towards, if you want to stay with me, and like, this is your decision with these consequences, and acknowledging that, hey, look, I'm going to be effectively having your brain sort of grow around this sort of response. This is all that is. It's your brain's going to grow up to be more inclined to be like the way I want you to be. You know what I mean? And that's intense. And like, there's a lot of different methods that you can use for that. There's Pavlovian, there's hypnosis, there's a lot of shit. You know what I mean? And it's a scary, terrifying thing, because a lot of that is pretty lifelong lasting. But the thing is your mother, your father, your uncle, whatever, didn't stop from spanking you, or didn't stop from like trying to get you to be encouraged to go roller skating or heading towards college or whatever it is, and kept pressuring. I know, and it's like, this is a false equivalency. Immediately, I know that people are going to say that. But it's like, it's not. It's just a societal thing where people go, it's not. It's way, way more bigger deal. And it's like, that stress and pressure to go to college, to, roller skate, to brush your teeth, whatever the fuck it is, comes with its own baggage. Comes with its own lifelong little wiggles and niggles and all this other shit that makes you clench and brush your teeth or this or that or whatever it is. It's lifelong. Trauma is trauma. Abuse is abuse. Grooming is grooming. Teaching is teaching. Parenting is parenting. Meaning it's all very much similar. Society acknowledges that sex is important and everybody needs sex to a varying degree. Like, you know what I mean? Like, some people it's way more important for them than it is for others. You know, that's a real thing. And then society goes, but you don't need to learn about it. You certainly don't need at all to have that thing. And this and whatever it is for kink play and be able to experience it in a safe way, in a safe manner with people that are either your family or friends or, you know, teachers or, you know, that safe community kind of way to be able to help you explore safely and learn and know what you want and like and love. You know what I mean? It's like, why are we like that? You know what I mean? And the answer is like, it's not really a false equivalency. It's very much the same. It's very similar abuse, and in fact, we treat sexual abuse way higher, and it's really shitty. You should. But all abuse is really shitty. It doesn't matter what abuse it is. All abuse fucking sucks, and some of it is worse for others than it is for you, or me, or whoever. And some of it is literally like not even abuse. It doesn't even matter what you do, or have done, or did, or will, or say, or any of that. It won't be. That's the illogical part that I have for their argument for the false equivalency. It's like, I don't think you understand. Nobody's the same. And abuse is abuse, and it's very hard to understand what's going to be abuse, and what isn't abuse, and what was okay, and or wasn't okay at the time, but then later became okay. That's the point. It's like, you don't really know. And truthfully, this is just fine, so long as you try your best, and you have good intentions, because we all have good intentions. We all have, you know, the best we can do, and nobody's perfect. And we all have stories. Every fucking person I've ever talked to has a story about some fucking thing that's happened with their family, friends, life situation. Everybody's experienced abuse. And to varying degrees, they've come out of it. Some of them a lot better than others, and some of them a lot worse. And you never know which one is going to be the thing, okay? And so it's like, we can't pussyfoot around all the time. We can try and set up the right ways of going about it. You know, teaching parents how to be safe, teaching kids how to be safe, you know, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, teaching the children, both in school and at home, what to look out for like, hey, they're pushing and I really don't like the push, you know what I mean? But also it's like, you know, how far? You know, that kind of thing. Like, you need to brush your teeth. It's like, well, you're a fucking cranky ass little bitch. You're being a super brat and you're horny as fuck or whatever it is, and you need to get fucking dick down or, you know, whatever it is. Right? And so it's like, yeah, that's a thing sometimes. Like, and adults know about that. It's like, sometimes it's like, you need to shut up and you need to let me fucking fuck you. And you need to fucking come. You know what I mean? Like, you need to do that for a while. And then you're better after that. You're not nearly as cranky. It's kind of like hangry. You're horny hangry. You know what I mean? Or you're stressed or whatever. It's like, that's a thing. It's a sexual relief. It's a coping skill to a very degree. And it's like, sometimes, you know, you're going to have a household where it's that kind of thing. Where it's like, yeah, no, free use. Just whatever. Fucking, I don't care. Just do it. You know? And it's like, right. And that could be a kid. That could be a teen. That could be your wife. That could be your husband. That could be whatever. And so it's like, it's not a false equivalency. Like, you need these things. We acknowledge that we need these things very significantly. And they significantly change our life expectancy, our likelihood to be social, get better, you know, jobs, or friends, or, you know, situations in terms of hobbies and life, or just in general, be a happier, better person to yourself and others. But then we go, no, 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 you can't do that. It's not. It's not as it's like it shouldn't be as big of a deal as it is. We've made something that is ultimately similar to shitting and pissing, and cleaning yourself, because it's that necessary to be way bigger than it is. And it's like, well, there's increase in STDs, and there's a greater likelihood of, pregnancy at an earlier age. And it's like, well, we've got abortions, we've got the ability to stop that, we've got the ability to make it so that we have contraceptives to prevent a good amount of that, And it still makes the case for me for antivirals and antibacterials that we need to fucking get out there anyways. So, like, there's an incentive for your whole capitalistic regime to try and get some better drugs to help us out. So right there, that's a good idea to have. So anyways, I want that. I like that. I like the idea of doing that. I want that fantasy to come true. I'm really, honestly, actively trying to work towards it to varying degrees. It's one of those things where it's like I'm heading towards just seeing what a relationship is like. It's like I want to work towards that part, but it's like, I've never really consistently been in a relationship with someone and consistently even had sex. So like that's the first part. Like let's just try and get the basic bitch crawl going, or scooting around or some shit, instead of we're gonna go bump and run and you know what I mean. But it's like I also just do want to run and do that thing because I like that kink stuff. I like being like a bull or like a dom, dominant, and like that kind of shit. So that's kind of what I am. And in polyfidelity, I love the idea of harems. I love the idea, but it's like, no, that's terrible. None of that's it. And it's like, I get it, because your community, you don't want harems, and you don't want them to think like that's a thing. But that's a kink part. Like, people are into that kink in your community, the polyamorous, polyfidelity, poly community. So it's like, that's a thing. There are people that are successful and have successful relationships like that. And they can come in and they can come out. Like any bohemian style, hippie-esque, sort of community. Where they raise their kids, or they'll have kids together, and they can separate, or they can stay, and that kind of thing. And they don't feel wrong. That's the best part about that, they don't. So, yeah. But that doesn't ring true in someone's mind that has thought consistently in the classical standard way of thinking that is the current zeitgeist. That they've been raised and groomed and taught and told and parented and all the rest of it, that's what that is. But it's like, it's actually not really that accurate. In fact, historically, with many anthropological studies and more, it's still a very good, in fact, very successful way of raising a family. It's just, oh no, you're this person that's so powerful and all this, and it's like, you have the, ability to leave. Like, that just makes this argument for, hey, we need to make it easier for someone to be able to divorce. You know what I mean? We need to make it easier for people to communicate their needs and wants, and, hey, have that respected for those boundaries. You know what I mean? Like, that makes that case for communication-based education earlier on with your own kids and children, and also in schools. Very early. We're talking kindergarten. They can learn quite quickly. Like, kindergarten is almost essentially that, except it's poorly done. You know what I mean? It's like, no. You need to not hit that other kid. He doesn't like that. Don't do that. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm setting a boundary, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, they don't have to respect it. It's like, that's also a part of that lesson. People don't have to, but then it's like, there are consequences that are supposed to be there, but people aren't always watching. You see where I'm going with this, where it's like, right, we're going to make an example as much as we can, and we're going to play it as best we can inside of the classroom, where we, go through a situation or scenario, and we have everybody act it out and all the rest of it, / whatever else that you can do in terms of being able to frame someone's mind and perspective to understand it, and going over why you're doing it and what it's for and what it really means and the consequences and the perspectives. Because truthfully, that's logical, critical thinking skills as well. And it's socialization skills that you necessarily really need to be able to be successful in the future. You need to have that, you know. And so that's a big, big part of that. You know, it doesn't come naturally for everyone, and not everybody will have those experiences, and this is also a way to kind of break down this barrier of embarrassment and I'm too cool or I'm this or whatever, and still have people socialize. You know, it's a big deal, actually. It's a fairly darn big deal, and you should do it, but we don't, to varying degrees. We do, and to varying degrees we don't. And some of it's more successful than others, and we have to accept ourselves and others for the way we are and they are. And that's another part of that, because I'm like, trans are real. They are really real, okay? They're valid as fuck. Stop that. Same thing with pedophiles, or ebophiles, or hebophiles, or any of that. Because what did I just talk about? It's like, how is it that that immediately makes you angry and, you know, all this? But, like, they're not bad. And they're just specific. Meanwhile, I'm not. You know what I mean? You know, so it's like, right, but you trend towards younger. I also trend towards older. It depends on the day, and sometimes it's nothing like that. It's usually just whatever the fuck I want. It's nothing in any particular specificity. And so it's like, a lot of people are like me, but they don't really have words for that, you know, and you can't tell someone that it's like, well, you know, I'd go down to this age, you know what I mean? But it's like, that's if it's legal and all these scenarios and context and blah, 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 but it's like, now all of a sudden, you've got someone. You know, it's like, what's your context? What's your scenario? What if it was like this, would you do it? And it's like, yeah, I suppose, maybe. And it's like, so you're a pedophile. And it's like, no, you're not. You just realize that there is a situation that you would do something. And some of you, you'd never do it. Because either you don't care, you don't like it, you're afraid of hurting them, whatever it is. But it's the context that there isn't pain. There is no trauma. They were educated. They are understanding. They do want it. What would you do? You know, how many of you would ultimately be like, well, you know, maybe. I guess I could see myself doing it. Yeah, why not? And it's like, that's a lot more than you think. And it's like, age is going to be a part of sexuality, just like status, for your social status, and money, monetary, financial status. You know, and influence, and how likable you are, and everything else in terms of what they like for their chemistry and how they work together. So, sexuality is only based upon gender, though, and it's like, right. It's amazing how people are like, gender is so many things. Suddenly get super pedantic about that damn fucking definition. You know, I saw this thing for Illuminati doing this, and it's like huge, sweeping, massive generalizations, black and white. They don't go over any, and it's like, ooh, this is just a fucking shit piece. This is a shit on things piece. Just go with what people, generally speaking, will think that is bad for this stuff that we don't like. You know, but it's like the vast majority of people I've talked to that have really broken things down. It's like, yeah, no, I mean, you know, sometimes, or okay, they are pretty hot or cute or whatever. You know what I mean? Or I've had my own experience. It wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? When I was younger, and it was okay. I wanted it too. And it's like, right, but how come they didn't? Or how come that's not a thing? Or how come that's illegal? And then you start picking up where I go with that, because it's like, that doesn't make sense that we made it illegal, or that it's not okay, or any of the rest of it. So, but anyways, there you go. Inside the mind of a pedophile is what they'll say, but the answer is it's not at all. Yeah. Right. Or a predator. I mean, that's another one that they try and call me. Predatory. And it's like, actually, I'm advocating for change and a greater amount of education over the things that we are all aware of. Typically speaking, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people, generally speaking, have a pretty decent amount of knowledge about that kind of thing going on. But then the moment it's like with this or that or something else, they switch right back to it's always bad, it's always black and white and all the rest of it. But then the moment it's this person or that thing or that situation, then it's like now it's not. Which is not predatory. It's not grooming, and I'm not trying to be a silver-tongued devil. So like that's kind of the issue I end up having when it comes down to trying to talk about some of this stuff, because it's like, how do you talk to someone about this? Because a lot of people are actually pretty almost there to already kind of acknowledge and know about it. To they have some general thinking, but they're afraid to continue because they don't want to suddenly come off as bad or evil or wrong or whatever it is. So there's that.